Hi everyone. So I'm back again with a small business tips from my perspective, things I've learned up to this point, video for you, any of you who are thinking about starting a business, who may have already started a business, whatever. I'm just going to be sharing with you things I've learned throughout my, 4.5 years of having my professional organizing business. So let's just dive right into this. So I'm going to tell you about some of the preliminary stuff. Like I'm in some business groups on Facebook, and I am around other entrepreneurs and other aspiring, people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs. And I hear a lot of the same questions. And, I guess I'll answer those questions for anyone who has them. For me, here's why I pause. For me, this part of of starting my business, this particular business, was based on research. I'm really into research. And I think I'm going to do a third video tonight on research, because there's something else that bothers me that people do, not business related. But we'll talk about that. Join me in that next video and we'll talk about that. So right now we're focusing on business. A lot of people ask, like, what do you need to get started? Do I need a business license? Do I need a permit? This and that. Basically, my answer to you is it depends. So sometimes you do need a license, a permit, especially if you're like serving food, making food, selling food to people. Technically, like if you're doing hair, you need to be a licensed cosmetologist, is it? You need to be licensed for hair and stuff like that. Technically, I know that a lot of people, and no shade whatsoever, like I have nothing against people who are like doing braids out of their house. Like if you saw my first video on small business, like going where the money is when you're starting your small business. If you gotta do braids and weaves and whatever, haircuts, I guess, although be careful with that, because like if someone gets injured, that's not going to be good. But, braids and weaves out of your own house or the kitchen sink, or traveling to your client's house as a side hustle while you're in school, while you got your 9 to 5, while you're going through beauty school, do what you do. More power to you. Like, that's kind of smart. Like, get it how you can, until you can get those licenses. But I mean, please don't tell your state licensing boards I just said that, but like, we're all friends here, and I want you to succeed, and I'm realistic about, like it's hard going into that first year of business, because most businesses don't turn a profit in their first year. In fact, it takes a few years oftentimes for a business to start turning a profit. But we're going to talk about getting your stuff set up. So here's what I was originally going to say. For me, it was about research. And that starts by going to your state's official website and your city's official website, the county too, maybe. And that's going to be like a .gov address. So for me, it's nyc.gov, I believe, for New York City. There's also like a state website, and there's like a, New York is weird about counties. I don't know, but I threw that in there because like some things might be handled at the county level, depending on where you live. But your business license is going to be registered in your state. So it's best to just start with your city, the city website. And usually there's a section for small businesses. And if you don't know your city's website, just type in official website of whatever the name of your city is into Google. 9 times out of 10, it'll pull it right up. And just look for the small business website or small business section. Or you can even type that into Google. Name of city, official website, small business, all like as a search query or whatever. And that will tell you whether or not you need a license. So for New York, it's kind of sophisticated. Like there's actually a thing you can click through, like an assessment, and you tell them what you're doing. Like it asks, are you doing this, yes or no, or whatever. and you click through, and based on your answers, it'll tell you whether or not you need a license. I technically did not need one. Actually, I didn't have one for a long time. I'm saying license. Because another thing that you will learn is that there's levels to like the documentation you need for your business. What I'm thinking about is registration. So I didn't need to register my business technically to do business in New York because of the nature of business I do. But as I wanted to grow and expand and become like official, because I didn't know for a while if I wanted to be a professional organizer full time, if I wanted to start a business like that, how well it could do, whatever. So like I kind of like started it part-time or just did it on the side. I was that person that's like doing hair in the kitchen. That's why I say shout out to them. But I wasn't doing hair. I was organizing homes and businesses, homes in the beginning, mostly. And then I was like, okay, well, this is the thing. We're going to grow this. I'm going to grow this into a business. And so I eventually got my business registered, formed an LLC in my case. But before I got to that point, I operated as a sole proprietor. And when you're a sole proprietor, you can keep your social security number, or you can apply for an EIN. It doesn't hurt to do that. You're going to need it should you decide to go forward and eventually register and form your business as an LLC, as a corporation, whatever the case may be. Yeah, so I just like kept it bare bones, and just like I filed taxes on my business, all of the extra forms that you have to do when you are self-employed or have a small business. I was self-employed before this, so I was familiar with doing those forms. But yeah, so now I actually have an LLC, and for me, I think the LLC is the easiest because it operates similar to being a sole proprietor in terms of taxes, except it offers you a level of protection in the event that something goes wrong. They are not going to sue you. The customer, whomever, isn't going to sue you personally. They're going to sue the LLC. Well, they won't sue you because nothing's going to go wrong. They're definitely not going to sue me because nothing's going to go wrong. I don't want to speak that into existence. But hypothetically, in terms of liability, limited liability company is what LLC stands for. Meaning they can't come after you personally for the most part. Talk to a lawyer. But in the beginning, you might not be able to afford a lawyer. So that's why I say, like, I'm just telling you from my experience. I really kept it simple. And yeah, so even while I was still a sole proprietor, though, I carried business insurance, which I highly recommend. It's actually quite inexpensive depending on what you're doing. And yeah, so like that is what you'll have in case, let's say you are a sole proprietor, you're doing a service for someone or selling them a product. Can you do that? Well, yeah, like you're doing whatever you do, but you're like operating for tax purposes and for everything else as a sole proprietor. If you've got business insurance, that will offer you some coverage in case they try to come after you, like the business, you can have it as a sole proprietor. But it offers you like a little something to cover it, more than a little. Like my policy was up to $1 million, but which isn't like it may sound like a big deal, but like it's not. It's pretty easy to get that, I found. But that's some money like the insurance will cover if someone gets injured or whatever the case may be, depending on what you're doing, because that matters, and you need to make sure you've got the right insurance for whatever service you're trying to provide or whatever you're selling or whatever you're doing in your business. So yeah, that is that. Oh, okay. So like how you're going to, let's say you're ready to register your business, that is all information you can find from your state's website. And also look up and see whether you need, this kind of feels repetitive, but look in your city and make sure that you're in compliance, whatever the city's rules are as well. Don't just look at the state and ignore the city. Look at the city, look at the state, look at, the county in case there's something you might need you know, to have like a permit to do or whatever, or, you know, a local little license, or there's a word I'm trying to think of, but like a thing that allows you to do business in that locality or whatever. But yeah, so, state licensing. Now there are services that will try to, you can call a lawyer. It's great to call a trusted, seasoned lawyer. I didn't, and you don't have to because it's pretty easy. For me, I just filled out the form online for my LLC, and I paid $125, and I pay like $75 or something as an annual renewal fee every year. My business isn't registered in New York. That's another thing. But I'm going to talk more about that in another video, because there's a process I'm going to be going through that I highly recommend it so far, but I haven't gone through the process, so I can't really tell you much about it because I'm still experiencing it for myself. And I haven't, like, it's one of my goals for this year. I haven't fully gotten started. I've just attended a couple workshops. Basically that city certification to do business with your city, because cities need all sorts of services depending on what you provide. And they need goods. You know, if you make uniforms, the city might, you know, you can get certified to do business with the city so that they're buying their uniforms for you. And that's a crap ton of income, that you could be getting. But anyway, so, I'm going to talk about that more because that's all in the works. Like, I'm still like in the very beginning stages of doing that, but all this stuff will come in handy, and you'll need certain things if you decide to go through that process. But yeah, so yeah, that's how that came up. I do business in New York, and so like I'm eligible to do that, even though my business isn't registered in New York. But what was I going to say? Yeah, so I'm just like rambling on here. It's so late. I've had a busy week. So yeah. Oh, so the scam ripoff people. Do not pay someone to apply for your business registration on your behalf. I mean, unless like it's a lawyer you know and trust or something like that, it's really not necessary. The process is pretty easy. It's just like a form in most states, and it does vary from state to state, so that's why you need to, you know, bookmark your state website, especially your city website, whatever the case may be. But again, LLCs and all that stuff come from the state, like the business license comes from your state. So, yeah, you're going to have to register within your state or a state or whatever, wherever you're doing business or headquartering or whatever, because it doesn't have to be, as I just said, the state you're actually physically living in. So just do the form yourself. Most of them in most states are very easy. Some of them are super cheap. Like, I think maybe there's states where it's like $25. I know there's at least one state where it's $50, or at least I think I've heard that from someone in another state. But, I can't think of which state that is. But, just try to do it yourself. Try to, you know, look online for resources to help you if you have a hard time. Because there are these companies that pretend to file, they'll charge you like double what you have to pay, and they'll supposedly file it. Some of them may not even file it. I believe there are scams out there, and some of them will file it. They'll just like charge you double, and you don't have to do that. Also, I got oh my goodness, so I had to renew my registration. I renew it annually, obviously. I think all states do annually. Maybe some do like every 2 years or something. But around like a few months before renewal time, I get this weird letter that looks like it's on the type of letterhead the state uses. I mean, it looked very convincing. And they were saying, oh, fill out this form and send us X amount of money to ensure you're renewed on time. And, you know, and their name was something similar to the office within the state that handles the renewal. Total fraud, total scam. They were trying to charge me like at least twice what it costs to renew. I don't know who these people are, so who's to say that they would have even done it in the first place, but be on the lookout for that. And it's really best to just learn how to do it yourself, because it's not a steep learning curve. It's not very difficult. You just like provide info about your business basically and pay the fee. And then eventually they process it and they send you your registration papers, documents, and that's that. So be on the lookout for scams, for stuff like that. My whole point in this video is that this preliminary stuff sounds very daunting, but for most people it won't be, especially if you're just like starting out small, selling lemonade or whatever you're trying to do. Although, like, if you're selling like stuff people put in their body, like food and supplements and things, you're gonna have more hurdles to clear in terms of being able to sell your products, typically, as far as I know. But let's say you're selling t-shirts or something, that should be pretty straightforward, in most states, I would think. So yeah, just like, it's okay to try to DIY, just do your research. Also, the good thing about, finding your state website and your city website, a lot of times they have free resources to help people with paperwork, with figuring out whether they need certain licenses and permits and things like that. So leverage those resources because they do it free of charge. They have special programs for women-owned businesses, oftentimes minority-owned businesses, and one more that I'm not thinking. Oh, immigrants, sometimes immigrant-owned businesses. You know, like if your family came here and you've been like a legal resident or whatever and you start a business, please by all means don't go there if you're not a legal resident, because that might cause you problems in this current climate. Don't say I told you to do that. But yeah, just like look and see what resources are out there, but you know, keep it simple. If you're able to do what you do and like see if your idea makes money, start there. Like I said in my first video on business tips, small business tips, and like don't like rush to do everything and then you find out your idea isn't viable, or especially if you can't really afford to do all this stuff. Meaning like hire an attorney or like pay someone to fill out this and then that and register for this and then that, when you may not even be required to at the scale at which you're operating in your state/city or due to the nature of business you're doing. Just look into all this stuff is all I'm saying, and just like try to keep it simple at first, and then like as the money rolls in, as you get a better idea of what you want to do, what works, what doesn't work, then you'll be better equipped to do these things. I don't regret waiting I was in business like 2 or 3 years before I registered, and I don't regret it. I was just kind of, well, yeah, like it was more, I was making money off of it. I was paying my taxes and everything, of course. Unfortunately, it was just something I could kind of do like that until it was time for me to scale up and get more organized with my business. But yeah, so I hope this helps. This is the tone of this advice is intended to be pretty casual and laid back, because I'm not like a business advisor, but I'm just sharing my experience because I know what it's like, and I know other people who are kind of like trying to start out, or they're afraid to get started because they think you need all this stuff in place before you start, when it's not necessarily the case. Now, of course, it's always best to be organized in how you go about things, but you don't have to have everything figured out up front. And really, I think you need to first figure out whether what you want to do is going to make money, and there are ways to figure that out, to kind of test that out before you jump in. So I hope this video is helpful. I will see you again in the next video. Until then, take care.